6 years ago, I was an unknown nobody in the entertainment industry, not even able to compete for extra roles. To marry my girlfriend Willow, I worked myself to the bone, taking on multiple part-time jobs just to make enough money. But what I never expected was that, in order to marry the wealthy second-generation heir Makoto, she would choose to run away while pregnant. 6 years later, I had already won 3 Best Actor awards, while she had been abandoned after her engagement was called off and was left raising the child alone. When we met again, she clutched my leg and cried, begging me to give her a proper status. "I even gave birth to your child," she said. "Even if you don't care about our past, you should at least take pity on me for flying half an hour just to come find you, right?" Chapter 1. During a break on set between filming scenes, a little girl who looked strikingly like Willow walked up to me. Her lips were pursed, and her expression carried a mixture of grievance and stubborn pride. "My mom is Willow. You're my dad," she said. I looked at her and calmly nodded. The next second, she pulled a thick stack of cash from her backpack and held it up with pleading eyes. "I want to hire you for one day to attend my parent-teacher meeting." "Okay." I stared at the child holding the money and froze for a moment before slightly frowning and pushing the cash back toward her. "I don't need it." Her eyes immediately turned red. Lowering her head, she spoke more and more softly. "Grandpa said you're busy making money, so I saved up for a really long time before coming to find you. The kids in kindergarten all say I'm a wild kid with no dad. Every time I tell them I do have a dad. My dad is a big star. They always say I'm a liar. Even if you don't want me anymore, I'm not lying. But they just won't believe me." She stood there quietly with her head lowered, her small body trembling as she wiped away tears with her sleeve. I crouched down and gently wiped the tears from her face. In a calm voice, I said, "I meant I don't need your money, but I can go." She instantly lifted her head, her eyes shining brightly with disbelief and uncontrollable joy. Throwing herself straight into my arms, her little round head trembled as she burst into tears again, as though all the grievances she had suffered finally came pouring out. I patted her back and soothed her until her breathing steadied. After she cried enough, she looked into my eyes. Her face flushed red, and her gaze darted away shyly as she carefully said, "I didn't cry today. I just couldn't hold it in just now." It seemed she was quite the little crybaby. Seeing her like that, I smiled and gently pinched her cheek. "It's okay. If you want to cry, then cry." She pressed her lips together and smiled before grabbing my hand and enthusiastically introducing herself. "My name is Daisy. My nickname is Candy. I'm 5 years old. You can call me Candy." I smiled and nodded. "I know." Her big eyes blinked in surprise. "You know my name?" I nodded again. "I know." Back when Willow and I were deeply in love, we had already chosen a name for our future daughter. Daisy was the name she picked, and Candy was the nickname I chose. How could I not know? Chapter 2. As we talked, I led her onto the RV. The assistants on board, David and Luis, saw me return with a child and immediately started teasing me. "George, where did you kidnap this little girl from?" I patted Candy's head and calmly replied, "My daughter." The moment those words left my mouth, the smiles on their faces froze, and panic immediately set in. David blurted out, What? No one got pictures, right? If this gets photographed, we're done for." Candy noticed that I hadn't said anything. Carefully tugging at the corner of my clothes, she softly asked, "Did I cause you trouble?" The anxiety on their faces instantly shifted into guilt. I smiled gently and rubbed her fluffy little head. "Candy is not trouble." David and Luis quickly waved their hands. Right, we were just talking nonsense." Candy looked at me, then at the 2 assistants and slowly set down her small backpack. She squatted on the ground and took everything out of her bag, her pajamas, a yellow cartoon umbrella, a water bottle, even her toothbrush, along with that stack of cash, carefully laying everything out in neat rows on the floor. She had really prepared everything before coming to find me. After arranging it all, she buried her head back into the backpack and pulled out 2 cheese sticks, handing one to David and one to Luis. Looking up at them obediently, she said, "Uncles, These are for you." Seeing her like that, the two grown men instantly softened. "We love cheese sticks the most." Candy smiled shyly and took out several more from her bag. "Then Candy will give all of mine to you." After work wrapped up, I brought Candy back to the hotel. Only after asking carefully did I find out that this little girl had left early in the morning with her backpack and taken a taxi all the way from Shanghai to the northern ancient town filming location. The driver had originally planned to call the police, but Candy offered so much money that he accepted the ride. She had actually arrived in the morning, but seeing that I was busy the entire time, she stayed with the fans and waited for me to finish work. That wait lasted until night. After everyone had dispersed, she quietly waited outside my RV. She was eating huge mouthfuls of food now. She must have been starving. Looking at her, my emotions became incredibly complicated. I wanted to say something, but the words just wouldn't come out. I truly couldn't imagine how a child could have the courage to take a taxi alone from Shanghai to the filming location. It was a journey of 3 to 4 hours, and I didn't even dare think about how anxious and uneasy she must have felt the whole way. My voice inevitably became a little hoarse as I asked, "What if you got lost?" With her mouth stuffed full of rice, Candy raised her hand and pointed at the smartwatch on her wrist while speaking unclearly. Tilting her head up at me, she smiled. "I wouldn't get lost. When I got in the car, I used my watch to take a picture of the license plate and sent it to Tom. And I kept calling Tom the whole time with my watch. Not only that, she had even brought a power bank in case the watch ran out of battery." The more casually she talked about it, the more guilty I felt. She had planned everything so carefully. She must have been preparing for this trip to find me for a very, very long time. Proudly lifting her chin, she started talking about her good friend again. "Tom is my desk mate in kindergarten. We're best friends. When I grow up, I'm going to marry him." Hearing that, I pressed a hand against my forehead and gave a bitter smile. "Next time, if you want to come find me, you can call me. I'll come pick you up." I paused for a moment before adding, "If your mom agrees." She nodded quickly and let out a cheerful, Chapter 3. After dinner, I took her to the bathroom. When she saw me preparing her toiletries, her face instantly turned red, and she stammered for a long time without being able to form a complete sentence. I immediately understood and waved my hand helplessly. "I'm not going to bathe you. Here, body wash, shampoo, and toothpaste. Can you wash yourself?" She nodded quickly. "I can. I always bathe by myself at home." I patted her head and praised her. "Good girl." After leaving the bathroom, I took out my phone and opened a chat I hadn't contacted in a very long time. I typed, "Candy is with me." Not long after the message was sent, the other side replied, "I know." She told me through her smartwatch. Seeing that indifferent tone, I frowned, but it seemed I didn't really have the right to blame her. I asked, "When are you coming to pick her up?" She replied, "I'll be out of town soon. Let Candy stay with you for a couple of days." I took a deep breath and was just about to type a response when the bathroom door suddenly opened. Candy came running toward me holding her dirty clothes, her eyes full of expectation. "Daddy, I'm all clean and smell nice now." I deleted the message in the input box and put my phone away. Then I picked up the hairdryer and started drying her hair. In the mirror, the little girl squinted her eyes and smiled softly as she sat on the stool, swinging her little legs back and forth, looking completely content. I smiled and gently ruffled her hair. After drying her hair, I brought her to bed and gave her a kiss. "All right, time to sleep. I'm going to wash up." The blanket covered half her face, leaving only a pair of bright, watery eyes visible as she nodded. When I came out after washing up, the little figure on the bed was hugging the blanket and happily rolling around. The moment she saw me, she quickly lay down properly and even patted the spot beside her. I couldn't help but laugh. As soon as I lay down, Candy immediately threw herself into my arms. I tucked the blanket around us and gently patted her back. But as I kept patting her, the little one quietly began wiping away her tears. Her tiny hands clutched tightly onto my pajamas as if she was afraid I would disappear the very next second. Chapter 4. Children fall asleep quickly once sleepiness takes over. Not long after crying, she drifted off to sleep. But tonight, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't fall asleep. My thoughts inevitably wandered back to many years ago. When I first met Willow, I had only just begun gaining some fame. At the time, my agent told me that the daughter of an investor had taken a liking to me and wanted to pay a huge sum to have me star alongside her in a romance film. But I was young and hot-blooded. When I saw the explicit lines in the script, along with more than 20 minutes of kissing and bed scenes, I refused without hesitation. As a result, they quietly blacklisted me. I couldn't act in my own company's productions, and even projects from other companies that I had already signed contracts for were canceled. The $5 million penalty fee was something my family could never afford, even if we sold everything we owned. They used every possible method to destroy my future and even openly declared that they would make sure I could never survive in the entertainment industry. Just when I was completely desperate and had nowhere left to turn, I met Willow. At that time, I was in a restroom throwing up from drinking too much, looking pathetic and miserable. She suddenly tapped me from behind and said, "George, it really is you. I've liked you for a long time. What projects have you been filming lately?" At first, I simply treated her as a fan and answered politely. But she kept asking questions. Maybe it was because of the alcohol, or maybe I was simply fed up. I ended up telling her everything I had been going through. I thought she would listen and then forget about it. Instead, her eyes immediately lit up, and she said, "George, I can help you." Then, with effortless confidence, she handed me a business card from the Lou Group, blinked and said, "Be with me. At least I'm young and pretty. Being kept by me isn't exactly a loss for you." Later, the Lou Group paid off my penalty fee, arranged for me to join a well-known entertainment company, and even found me the most professional agent available. From that moment on, my career took off as if I had unlocked a cheat code. Job offers never stopped coming. Famous directors offered me roles whenever I wanted them, and endorsement deals poured in endlessly. Back then, George was truly standing at the peak of glory. When our relationship was at its sweetest, I once asked Willow why she had chosen me. She smiled brightly and teased, "Of course it was love at first sight, purely because you're handsome. This young lady has always been domineering. If I want someone, I must have them." I couldn't help but laugh and gently flick the tip of her nose. But I also knew very clearly that Willow, a wealthy heiress, and I would never truly belong to the same world. So I worked desperately hard to climb higher, foolishly hoping that one day I might become worthy of standing beside her. But like all fantasies, it eventually shattered. Willow's mother came to see me. She made it crystal clear that the Liu family would never agree to let their daughter marry an unknown actor. Cutting my losses while I still could was the wisest choice. She sent my critically ill father to the best sanatorium abroad, handed me a blank check, and secured me a leading role in a film directed by a renowned filmmaker. It was the world I had struggled so desperately to enter, yet had never been able to reach on my own. Compared to gambling on a future that had no future, the success laid out right in front of me was something no one would refuse. But I didn't agree. Unfortunately, in this love story that I once believed was pure, the final blow that completely broke me came when Willow got engaged. There was no dramatic scene of a wealthy heiress eloping for love or cutting ties with her family. Willow didn't even cry. She was calm and honest about it. I asked her, "What about us? What are we supposed to do?" She answered in that same half-joking tone, "What difference does it make?" Of course, I understood exactly what she meant, but my moral boundaries wouldn't allow me to accept it. So I broke up with her, took everything the Liu family had given me, and completely cut off all ties with Willow Liu. Then one day, she sent me a message telling me that she was pregnant with my child. Chapter 5. When I woke up, I found Candy staring at me with her big, bright eyes. The moment she noticed I was awake, she quickly shut her eyes and pretended to be asleep, but her eyelashes kept fluttering. I couldn't help finding it a little amusing, so I pinched her cheek. "I know you're awake." She shyly snuggled closer to me, happily wriggling around like a little caterpillar. For once, I didn't have any filming scheduled that day, so I spent the entire day playing around the filming location with Candy. Downstairs at the hotel, A red Ferrari had been parked there for who knew how long. Standing in front of it was someone I knew all too well, Willow. She was wearing a black high-waisted dress, and when she saw us returning, she slowly walked toward us. Compared to 5 years ago, she carried a much more mature presence now. Tilting her head slightly, her cool gaze swept over Candy before she calmly said, "It's time to go home." Candy pouted immediately, her face full of reluctance. "I want to stay with Daddy. If you're jealous of me, you can go home and find your own dad." Willow was so annoyed that she laughed instead. Then she lifted her eyes toward me and said, "See? It's not that I didn't come pick her up. She just refuses to go back with me." I patted Candy on the shoulder and gently coaxed her. "Tomorrow is Monday. You have school." But Candy stubbornly shook her head. Tears quickly welled up in her eyes, making her look as pitiful as possible. Seeing her like that, Willow let out a soft snort and was about to say something, but Candy suddenly pulled her aside and whispered into her ear. Willow tilted her head, looking only half interested, as though the words were going in one ear and out the other. Meanwhile, Candy stood there with a serious expression, her hands on her hips and her little mouth chattering non-stop as if she were lecturing someone. Chapter 6. Candy said, "I already told you. I wanted to come find Daddy. You clearly promised that I could stay with him for a few days. I'm not going back with you. If you force me, I'll tell Grandma that you lied to a child. You should go back already. Don't disturb my alone time with Daddy." Willow bent down slightly and replied, "If you can come find him, why can't I?" Candy huffed and shot back, "My dad doesn't want you anymore. Why are you here to see him?" Willow was speechless for a moment. She pressed her lips together, then rolled her eyes as though she didn't care at all. "You think acting pitiful will make him like you? He doesn't even want me. Why would he want you?" Candy became so upset that she started shouting about going back to complain, saying that Willow was bullying her. And just like that, Candy dragged me back to the hotel room and slammed the door shut, leaving Willow outside. Willow was furious, but no matter what she said, Candy refused to open the door. In the end, she could only send me a message. "Open the door." After locking it, Candy ran around the room searching for a place to hide. Eventually, she chose the bed. She kicked off her shoes and wrapped herself tightly in the blanket. Looking at the little hill sticking up under the blanket, I couldn't help but laugh. Still, I went over and opened the door. When Willow saw me, she showed a rare bit of politeness. "Can I come in?" I nodded. "Sure." Back when Willow told me she was pregnant, I had once thought she had changed her mind. But very soon, I realized just how wrong I was. I watched as she held a grand engagement ceremony with Makoto Ito. I watched the two of them appear hand in hand at various public events. Even the netizens called them a match made in heaven. As for me, thanks to the film Willow's mother had given me, I went on to win 3 Best Actor awards in a row, completely securing my place in the entertainment industry. After Willow came in, she glanced at the small lump under the blanket on the bed and let out a soft laugh. She didn't expose Candy right away. Instead, she looked at me and asked, "How have you been lately?" I smiled. "Not bad. You?" She sat down naturally, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear as she replied lightly, "Not engaged, not in a relationship, still on my own. I'm doing fine." I was a little speechless. I hadn't even asked that. So instead, I asked, "What about Mr. Ito?" She looked up at me, a faint smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Him? Probably somewhere on a beach overseas, sunbathing with his little girlfriend." Then she added, "There's never really been anything between us." I simply let out a soft before decisively changing the subject. "Take Candy back. She has school tomorrow." The moment those words left my mouth, Candy suddenly threw off the blanket, jumped out of bed barefoot, and wrapped herself around my leg. "Daddy, can you not send me away?" Looking into her round eyes filled with tears, my heart instantly softened. "But you have school tomorrow." She didn't answer. She simply clutched my pant leg even tighter. Seeing her like this, Willow finally spoke up. "Missing a couple of days of kindergarten isn't a big deal. Just let her stay with you for a few days. Candy looked up at me with red eyes. Daddy, I'll be very obedient. I won't disturb your work. I gently patted her head, feeling a quiet warmth spread through my chest. Watching the tender interaction between father and daughter, Willow let out a soft laugh. After a couple of days, will you still recognize me as your mom? Candy turned her head, thought seriously for a moment, and finally nodded. Chapter 7. Candy was a sweet-talking little girl. After spending just one day at the set with me, she had already become familiar with all the staff. Whenever I had breaks between scenes, she would sit obediently beside the director and watch me act. This time, we were filming a serious historical drama. The director had worked with me several times before, so he was especially tolerant of Candy. Every now and then, he would tease her. So what do you think? Isn't your director uncle pretty impressive? Candy lifted her little face and nodded vigorously. Director uncle, you're amazing. You should teach my dad how to film properly. Mom said he used to take photos of himself that looked like a ghost. The director burst out laughing at me. When that scene ended, I was done filming for the day. Over the past 2 days on set, all my co-stars had learned that I had a 5-year-old daughter. They were shocked at first, but they quickly got used to it. And because Candy was so lovable, everyone enjoyed teasing her during breaks. When Willow came to pick Candy up, the female lead of the drama, Alicia, happened to be holding her. Alicia teased, "I play your dad's wife in the show. Shouldn't you call me Mom too?" Candy wrapped her arms around Alicia's neck, thought about it carefully, and then said, "Big sister, even though you're younger than my mom, prettier than my mom, and you buy me cheese sticks to eat, if I call you Mom, my mom will get jealous. And if she cries, no one will comfort her. That would be so pitiful." Hearing those compliments, Alicia laughed so hard she could barely stop. "All right, even if you don't call me Mom, I'll still buy you cheese sticks." Just as she finished speaking, Candy heard Willow calling her. "Candy, come here." Even though she had only been away from her mom for a couple of days, she still missed her. The moment she heard Willow's voice, she quickly climbed down from Alicia's arms and ran over to hug Willow's leg. Willow looked down at her and rolled her eyes. "Your mom is old, huh? Not as pretty as other people." Candy grinned before lowering her head and muttering softly, "But it's true." Willow grabbed her under the arms and lifted her up in one smooth motion. Then she walked over to Alicia, slightly raised her hand, and said, "Hello, I'm Willow, the mother of George's daughter." Alicia smiled lightly and replied, "Hello, I'm Alicia." When I came out of the director's tent, I saw the two women smiling as they complimented each other's outfits. I wasn't the naive kid I used to be anymore. I could clearly sense the tension hidden beneath the surface. I stepped forward, sighed, and looked at Willow. "What are you doing?" The corner of her lips curved slightly as she glanced at Alicia again, a hint of provocation flashing in her eyes. "Just saying hello." I was speechless. Knowing that Willow was coming to pick Candy up today, I had already packed all of her things into the RV. Candy hugged her little backpack, pouting with obvious reluctance. Then she seemed to remember something, counted on her fingers for a moment, and her expression immediately brightened. "Daddy, the day after tomorrow is Friday again. Can Candy come find you again?" I smiled helplessly and pinched her cheek. "Anytime, but don't come secretly by yourself again. You can message me, and Daddy will have someone pick you up." Hearing that, the gloom on Candy's face vanished instantly, replaced by a bright smile. She happily tugged on Willow's sleeve. "Let's go, Mommy." As soon as they got into the car, Willow began asking, "That Aunt Alicia?" Before she could finish, Candy interrupted, "Aunt Alicia likes Daddy." Willow's grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly. She simply responded with a muffled, "Oh." She had already suspected it. After all, who would try to get someone else's child to call them Mom right after meeting them? Clearly, Alicia had her own intentions. After a moment, Willow asked again, "Then what about your dad?" Candy replied without hesitation, "Daddy likes her too." At those words, Willow's face darkened completely. She frowned. "How do you know that?" Candy stared straight ahead, sounding absolutely certain. Daddy always smiles at Aunt Alicia, but when he sees you, he looks worried. And when they act together, they even kiss. Then Candy started muttering again. Mom, do you think after Daddy marries Aunt Alicia, they'll give me a little brother or a little sister? I like little brothers more. Willow suddenly pulled the car over to the side of the road. Turning around, her face was pale and her brows were tightly furrowed. What did you say? Candy blinked. Will Aunt Alicia have a baby brother or sister? Mom, didn't you say that kissing makes people pregnant? And if you get pregnant, you can have a little brother. Candy was secretly delighted by the idea, completely unaware of the hurt expression on Willow's face beside her. Chapter 8 On school days. Candy was never idle for even a moment. Every time she had a break and I picked up my phone, I would find long voice messages she had sent me. In her soft, childlike voice, she shared little pieces of her kindergarten life. Daddy, today we had shrimp noodles for breakfast at kindergarten. Candy didn't like them. The noodles Uncle David makes are much tastier. Tom brought me a strawberry cupcake his mom made today. It was for Candy. Tom also said next time he'll treat you too. Today it was the assistant's sister who picked me up again. Everyone else's parents come to pick them up. Candy feels a little jealous. Daddy, it would be so nice if you could come pick me up from school too. Hearing those messages, a wave of bitterness rose in my chest. I replied to each one carefully. Uncle David says he misses you. When you come next time, he'll make fried noodles for you. Haha. Thank Tom for me. When Daddy finishes filming this project, I'll go to Shanghai and pick you up from school. Don't be sad, Candy. Daddy really wants to pick you up too. Every time Candy came over, Willow personally handled both the drop-offs and pickups. This continued for nearly half a month. And after dropping Candy off, Willow would often wander around the set wearing a gloomy expression, like a powder keg ready to explode at any moment. One day, Candy secretly tugged on her sleeve and asked, Mom, are you going through menopause? Willow was momentarily speechless, unable to respond. But before she could say anything, Candy continued talking on her own. Mom, I think you really don't stand a chance anymore. If you're going through menopause, then you're old, lazy, and have a bad temper. You definitely can't compete with Aunt Alicia. Willow fell silent again and let out an annoyed snort. But after thinking about it for a moment, she asked, Do you want Daddy and Mommy to be together? Candy was quiet for a while. She nodded, then shook her head. Daddy isn't happy when he's with you, so maybe it's better not to. Willow asked, Then do you want Alicia to be your new mom? Candy thought about it again. Then she crouched down gloomily and shook her head. Not really. Tom said that if Daddy marries a new mom and they have a new baby, then Daddy won't like me as much anymore. I don't want Daddy to stop liking me. Filming for this drama finally wrapped up in late December. As soon as filming ended, I went to Shanghai. As for Willow, she simply sent Candy straight to me. The moment she walked in, Candy's eyes lit up. Daddy, is this our home? That night after her shower, Candy happily climbed onto the bed. Daddy, Candy feels so happy. I patted her head and smiled. Daddy feels happy too. Just as I finished speaking, the doorbell rang. I got up and checked the monitor, only to see Willow leaning against the doorway. After a brief pause, I went and opened the door. Chapter 9 The moment I opened the door, I saw her standing there with her head lowered and her eyes red. George, Candy is missing. I was just about to tell her she wasn't when her body suddenly went limp and she collapsed forward. I reacted quickly, catching her and pulling her into my arms. A faint smell of alcohol drifted to my nose. She had been drinking. I tried to steady her, but she clung tightly to me and refused to let go. Hearing the commotion, Candy hurried out, her fluffy slippers pattering across the floor. With a helpless sigh, I carried Willow over to the sofa. I'll go make your mom some hangover soup. Keep an eye on her. Candy nodded obediently and sat beside Willow. Looking at her mother sleeping like a log, she poked Willow's face in annoyance. Isn't this embarrassing? You're such a grown-up and still need someone to carry you. Willow couldn't help it. She slightly opened her eyes and gritted her teeth in irritation at Candy. Candy's eyes immediately lit up. She glanced toward the kitchen before leaning close to Willow's ear and whispering, "Mom, I know you're pretending to be drunk." Willow turned her head away, frowning and ignoring her. Candy climbed on top of her and turned her face back. "If you buy me the newest Barbie doll, I won't tell Daddy." Willow turned away again and let out a faint from her throat. That entire night, Candy was unusually attentive. She fed Willow water and wiped her face, although when giving her water, she accidentally spilled it all over Willow's clothes, and while wiping her face, she accidentally bumped Willow's nose. Willow frowned and let out a muffled groan of pain. After Candy finally fell asleep, I looked at Willow lying on the sofa and shook my head helplessly. Tapping her arm with the back of my hand, I said, "That's enough. Stop pretending." She didn't move, determined to stay drunk until the very end. I sat down beside her and said calmly, "Willow, we're both in our 30s now. We're not in our 20s anymore. Let's not do this. So if you keep pretending, I'm throwing you out." Willow pressed her lips together, her voice tinged with sadness. "Yeah, we can never go back." I leaned against the sofa and rubbed my temples. "Back then, you said you wanted to be chosen without hesitation. So at that time, I chose you, and believed you would choose me too. But I lost that bet." Her voice trembled. "Yeah, I asked so much of you back then. But when it came to myself, all I did was run away. Even Makoto dared to defy his family, cancel the engagement, and run abroad." She continued, "You once gave up everything for me, betting that I would choose you. But back then, I didn't dare to choose you. Thinking about it now, I really feel sorry for you." I smiled faintly. "Yeah, you were pretty hypocritical back then. But I'm still grateful to you. Without you, I wouldn't have what I have today. It's just that, Willow, crashing into the same wall hurts. I don't have many strengths, but remembering pain is one of them." She lowered her head, her eyes turning slightly red. Chapter 10 Candy's parent-teacher meeting was held right before winter vacation. Rather than a traditional meeting, it was more like a parent-child activity organized by the kindergarten. The night before, Candy was so excited she couldn't fall asleep, wriggling around beside me non-stop. The smile on her little face never faded as she said, "Daddy, when we go to kindergarten tomorrow, they'll definitely envy me." I raised an eyebrow. "Envy you for what?" She immediately replied, "Because I have a super amazing dad." So, in my daughter's eyes, I was amazing. Other than my fans, I hadn't received such sincere praise in a very long time. Looking at her, I couldn't help feeling a little greedy. If only Candy could stay by my side forever. Candy snuggled closer to me and softly called out, "Daddy." Then she said, "I've seen you before at the kindergarten entrance." I opened my mouth in surprise. She continued, "You were wearing a mask and a hat, but I still knew it was you, because you were always looking at Candy." "Daddy, I didn't mistake you, right?" I hugged her and said, Daddy was always there." During those earlier years, I rarely had the chance to see Candy. It was only later, after she moved to Shanghai with Willow and started kindergarten, that I would occasionally, whenever I had no work, stand among the crowd of parents picking up their children and secretly watch her from a distance. I had even bought this apartment in Shanghai because it was close to her kindergarten. But I never dared let her know. Deep down, I was afraid. Afraid that my daughter might think I had abandoned her. And even more afraid that she might look at me and say, "You're not my dad." Fortunately, my child had been raised very, very well. Early the next morning, Candy got up and immediately started getting ready. She stood in front of the mirror for a long time admiring herself. I had no idea who she inherited such vanity from. When she noticed me laughing behind her, she blushed a little in embarrassment. "Daddy, can you put some white on me?" "Huh," she explained. "Tom's mom is coming today too. I want to look pretty." Hearing that, I couldn't help but laugh. "You like Tom that much?" Candy nodded seriously. "When the kids at kindergarten used to make fun of me, only Tom helped me. Tom is a hero. He always protects me at kindergarten, so I've decided I'm gonna marry him when I grow up. Grandma's TV dramas say this is called devoting yourself to someone. In the end, Candy looked at herself in the mirror and seemed extremely satisfied. See? So fair and pretty. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I originally thought Willow wouldn't come today. But just as Candy and I finished getting ready and were about to head downstairs, we saw her standing at the door. Candy was overjoyed. She grabbed my hand with one hand and Willow's with the other. At the kindergarten entrance, she held her head high with pride. Every time she saw someone, she would proudly announce, "See, I have a dad." Willow felt a little unbalanced hearing that. "Why don't you tell them you have a mom too?" Candy immediately let go of Willow's hand and replied, "Daddy is a best actor. You're just an ordinary person. What's there to show off?" Willow was instantly irritated. In her entire life, no one had ever called her ordinary. She puffed up her cheeks in anger and followed behind Candy and me. Candy introduced me to Tom and Tom's mother. But unexpectedly, Tom's mother turned out to be one of my fans. The moment she saw me, she became so excited she practically jumped up and down. The parent-child class was the final session of the semester. Candy had an amazing time. After the holiday started, she stayed with me for a while longer. Then, before the new year, Willow took Candy back to Beijing. When it was time to leave, Candy was on the verge of tears, throwing a rare tantrum like any ordinary child. In the end, Willow had no choice but to carry her straight into the car. Chapter 11. In the car. After Candy finished crying, she started getting angry. "Mom, if you weren't so immature, Daddy could have spent the new year with us." Willow fell silent for a moment before asking, "Do you want Mommy and Daddy to live together?" Candy lowered her head and softly murmured, Then she sighed as though something heavy was weighing on her mind. Willow patiently explained, "One reason Daddy and Mommy separated is exactly what you said. Mommy used to be too immature and not brave enough. Another reason is that your grandpa and grandma don't like Daddy." Candy frowned. "How can grandpa and grandma start liking Daddy? Do you want to know? I'll tell you." So on the very first night after returning to Beijing, Candy hugged her pillow and marched straight into her grandparents' bedroom. She climbed into bed between them and kept scrolling through short videos of motorcycles. The two elders looked at her curiously and asked why she liked those so much. Candy replied with a dreamy expression, "Grandpa, Grandma, when I grow up, I want a boyfriend who can ride a cool motorcycle too." The two elders were completely stunned and exchanged confused glances. Candy's eyes sparkled as she continued, "Mom went out riding with a motorcycle uncle. They even hugged. Mom also told me to call that handsome uncle with white hair Dad. Mom also said she wants to be with him forever and even get tattoos and a tongue piercing for him. That must be what love is." The moment Candy said those words, the two elders were so shocked they couldn't sleep all night. They tossed and turned until morning. The next day, with dark circles under their eyes, they sat in the living room staring at Willow and demanded, "What exactly does that Uncle Candy mentioned mean?" Willow, wearing a shy expression, casually replied, "Oh, him? He's my boyfriend. He said he'll come visit in a few days to pay his New Year respects." Willow's father was so furious that his vision went black and he collapsed on the spot. Looking at her fainted father, Willow sighed helplessly. "Dad, stop pretending. You're as healthy as an ox." Her father was so angry he kept shouting, "What a disaster! What a disaster!" But Willow completely ignored him. Meanwhile, Willow's mother was filled with regret and began scolding her husband non-stop. "Back then, who told you to meddle so much? You looked down on this and that. Now look, our daughter is about to be taken away by some hooligan." Chapter 12. On New Year's Eve, I had just finished a call with my parents when Candy's video call came in. She happily showed me the dumplings she had made. Right after the call ended, the doorbell rang. I got up and looked through the peephole. I thought it would be David and Luis, but to my surprise it was Willow. Confused, I opened the door, and she walked in without the slightest hesitation. I stood there stunned for a moment. "Aren't you in Beijing?" She looked at me and smiled slightly. "I came to spend New Year with you." Before I could even react, she placed several still-warm dishes on the table, then casually walked over to the wine cabinet and opened a bottle of red wine. Watching her act as though she owned the place, I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief.